Ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start our global talk this evening. I should say evening in Africa, but on this talk show, we have a number of panelists across the globe. So I'm sure that for those who are in the US, it should be about midday. Our colleague from North Carolina, those who are in the UK, they should be about 2 hours back. And therefore, in that interest, it's best to just say good morning, good afternoon, good evening to our listeners, okay? I'm happy to let you all know that finally, we're getting into our topic tonight. And the topic is about the revolution of ChatGPT and its impact on online education. We shall be looking at opportunities, threats, in that regard. And I'm happy that I couldn't have selected better persons or experts in this area. For some of you who might have received the flyer, you must have seen very eminent personnel who are going to speak to us. Others are consultants in the area of education. For example, we have Professor Mugisha on this call, who I will be able to introduce later. We have got Mr. George, from the United Kingdom. We have got Dr. Grace Kamlegea, an expert in artificial intelligence. And we have Mr. Sanka Abjit from Amazon, who is also the former communication director in UNICEF. He's also the founder of Zeducatry, or Zeducator, okay? But he'll be able to give us a better pronunciation, okay? I want to welcome all of you, and for this 1 hour, I want you to make sure that your internet is well set. If you haven't subscribed to our channel, Tanya Innovations Africa, please go to our YouTube channel, make sure you subscribe. We have a lot of resources that are available for you, which you can actually be able to follow. Make your comments, let us get your inputs. And as I've always told you, we're looking forward to upgrade this to an online TV and having a TV across Africa. And therefore, it's very important that we have your participation in the program. I would also like to, in particular, thank our colleagues in Nairobi, Mr. Karu and the team, who will be soon joining Tanya Innovations in terms of creating content on lifestyle, and many other content that we shall be producing soon, okay? So this evening, or this afternoon, or morning, for that matter, I have already explained I've already introduced the topic for today, and we shall directly be able to dive into the parties to explain what this technology revolution of ChatGPT, what does it mean? What are the future prospects? If you're a student, you should be able to start looking at gaps where you need to come in. And also for online education, those who are worried, we've had some people saying now online education is no longer tenable. Is this true? And if it is that there are threats, what are some of the experts in online education, like Professor Mugisha from Cavendish University, which has done a very commendable job in online education during the COVID season? What do they have to say? These, among many other things, are the things that we are going to look at tonight. May I just get very brief greetings from the panelists before we can dive into the show. I'll start with you, Dr. Grace Kamlegea.
Engagement and partnerships at the College of Computing and IT, and I work as a consultant, solution architect, and software engineering project manager and IT solutions lead for the last 7 years. Yes, I have considerable experience in applied software engineering and innovations and commercializations of software innovations. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kamlegea, for that brief intro. Quite a rich one indeed. Yes, back to you, Mr. George. An introduction?
Thank you very much, Maganda. It is great to be here with all the other distinguished panelists. My background is, I don't know, it's a mixed bag from all kinds of industries. I started off in financial services and gone to infrastructure, you name it. But my key driver is connecting the dots. You will always hear me talking about connecting the dots, not thinking in silos. And that is what is critical to understand whatever we do going forward. So that's my short piece here. Thank you, Maganda.
Thank you. Our very own Prof. Mugisha, please, some brief introduction.
Thank you very much, Evans. I'm John Mugisha. I am the Vice Chancellor of Cavendish University, Uganda. I am a professor of health planning and management. Earlier on, I studied social sciences for my bachelor's, and then I went into public health and health services management. I am an advocate of alternative pedagogies and 21st century skills, and that's really my interest. I'm interested in digital literacy and promoting digital skills and among the learners. And I'm interested in learning platforms as a way of managing learning now and promoting skills that will help students in the future. So I'm interested in this subject for personal reasons, for institutional reasons. I should say for national and regional reasons. I sit at the board of the National Council for Higher Education in Uganda and the Inter-University Council for East Africa, where I'm vice chair of the board. So this is something that is of critical importance to us in education. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Mugisha. Finally, Mr. Sankar Abhijit, please.
Thank you, Maganda. So my name is Abhijit Shankar. I currently work with Amazon Web Service as a Senior Strategic Program Manager. Just to emphasize that I am not representing Amazon on this panel. It's in my individual capacity. Before Amazon, I founded an online edtech firm called Z-Educator. And before Z-Educator, I was the Global Chief of Communications for UNICEF in New York for about 12 years. So my interests are using technology to alleviate the world's pressing problems, like education or reaching the most unprivileged or the hardest to reach globally. And I have lived and worked in many parts of the world. I have traveled to more than 70 countries as part of my jobs, different jobs that I've held. And it's a unique pleasure to be among these within this August company. And I look forward to this rich discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sankar Abji. I think we thank God for the power of technology that we are able to share such ideas across the globe. And I'm sure that this is a very important session to Africans and the whole globe at large. Now we come back to Dr. Kamlegea, researcher, fintech, startup technologies, a lecturer at Makerere University. Dr. Kamlegea, I think there would have been no other better person to start the talk on this program. We're talking about ChatGPT technology revolution. Could you briefly tell us, just briefly tell us to the listeners who are out there, not in those technical terms you use in your technology session, but just simplify it to our listeners, what is this ChatGPT revolution? And why the whole fuss about ChatGPT? Why the whole concern? Just make a brief painting about that. Welcome, Dr. Kamlegea.
Yeah, thanks, Evans. Yes, let me try to be as layman as possible. Well, GPT is an artificial intelligence-powered language model. And it's been developed by OpenAI, which is an organization that advocates for development of AI that is shouldn't be detrimental to human beings. That should be responsible use of AI. So this organization has been developing this technology, and this technology basically uses machine learning algorithms, and it generates human-like text that is actually conversational text that is easy to read, but also very comprehensible. ChatGPT has really created a buzz in the industry, and the revolution and the concern around it is that it has the ability to produce very realistic and very coherent responses. And this raises questions about its potential to be used for malicious purposes, such as spreading false information, plagiarism, impersonating individuals online, and so on and so forth. So the main concern is around the ethics and implications of such a technology in a number of industries. And additionally, there are also concerns about ethical implications of these artificial intelligence generated texts and their potential to displace jobs in the current human generated content, because they generate a lot of human-like content. So which jobs are going to be casualties for this kind of innovation? So as a result, we find that the tech industry has a growing discussion about the need for responsible artificial intelligence development and deployment practices. And this is where the discussion is. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you for that very brief. You have tried as much as possible to be a layman. I think you have done a commendable job. Now, you say that you have raised issues of ethics, you have raised issues of plagiarism. Maybe let us now go to Professor Mugisha. Professor Mugisha is the Vice Chancellor, Cavendish University. Cavendish University, especially in Uganda, has been applauded at being at the epitome of online learning, especially during COVID. I know that there are so many students who have literally been studying online, but also with the experiences of this online teaching. And also, Professor Mugisha, doubling yourself as the Vice Chairperson, board member of the Inter-University Council of East Africa. It means that you literally in charge of 7 countries. You are at the top of the board. Now, with this ChatGPT, the way Grace has raised some of those concerns, what do you think is the implication of this ChatGPT on Africa? And have you started looking at ways of how you can be able to avert this? Professor Mugisha.
Thank you very much, Evans. I want to begin on a good note that first of all, we need to appreciate this level of advancement in technology in respect of artificial intelligence. I think this is extremely important. There are some implications that we will talk about, but I think I would like to appreciate this level of advancement, that now you have a free knowledge resource out there which can answer a wide range of questions, near about everything. I think that's on a positive note. It is free, it is easy to use, it can stimulate the debate, engender critical thinking, it can make discussions richer. It can actually help even the lecturers to refresh themselves, and of course can even help students to refine their thinking before coming to class and going into practice and several other ways. So I would like to begin on that note. I should even say it could compensate for teachers who are weak, who are not very strong in facilitating learning, because it actually facilitates them. Now, why then are we concerned about I think Grace has enumerated a number of ethical issues. As educators, we are concerned about a few things. One, this artificial intelligence technology that we are talking about, ChatGPT, almost renders completely useless the traditional methods of assessment. Completely useless. Actually, the first time I heard about it, I read about a professor in the US who was saying that one student all of a sudden performed very well, wrote a very good essay, and this professor had called the student to say, how did you do this? We need to know what you did, what helped you so that we can help several other students. And the student said, wait a minute, I used ChatGPT. You see, so it renders useless the traditional methods of assessment. If you want to ask about STUs, essays, policy briefs, process blogs, name it. Actually, this can be done very well by ChatGPT. So, isn't this of concern? It is of concern. Of concern for us who are into online teaching and learning, but also for others who are using, who are into running contact classes or running physical classes. In fact, those ones are in a worse position because even the professors and the lecturers are not likely to know. For us, why we are so much concerned is because nearly 100% of our students own a smartphone, they have a laptop, they are on the internet all the time. So it means we are going to have to retrain our staff to teach while taking into account the usefulness but the potential threat of ChatGPT. And then, of course, we need to retool almost everyone about the methods of assessment, because the methods we have been using in the era of ChatGPT, they are not going to give us what we want. Somebody will will write a very good essay that they do not understand, which they cannot defend. So I guess I will have a chance to speak about a few strategies we can take. I think it's not all bad news. There are a few things we can do to still work with this very important technology that we need at this point in time. It's a resource, but then how do we mitigate the effects of an ethical application or use, especially in assessment? I think we'll be getting back.
Thank you. Professor Mugisha is always a prophet of good news. But thank you for that submission. I think when we hear from such authorities, then we can only hope for the best, because it means that you have looked at many other factors. Now back to you, Mr. Sankar Abhijit. You are working in a very high-profile organization, Amazon, and I must say we're very proud of you. You have also worked with UNICEF, an international organization, moreover as a chief of communication. That is also a very high-profile position, and I'm sure that you are well connected or versed with so many things. But I'm happy that you are also running as educators an organization which is still in line of education. Now, from your experiences and your contacts, and actually working for one of the top companies in the world, what do you think are these opportunities? What opportunities are you guys already exploiting back in the United States? Or where do you see, what are some of these opportunities that you could be able to explain to us or the listeners?
Thank you, Maganda. Let me take you back to the first time that I used internet itself. It was in India, where I'm originally from, in Bangalore, which is known as the Silicon Valley of India, probably in the year 96 or 97. And the first time that I used it, I opened an email account on Hotmail, which had the storage capacity of 2 MB at the time. And the part that I was bowled over with was that I had access to information from all over the world. Google did not exist at the time. but or I had not used it. But there was Yahoo. There was a very behemoth of a search engine. So the first thing that came to my mind was that people who have not had full access to information globally, there was democratization of information due to the explosion of internet. And as internet has permeated through the different parts of the world, including in various countries in Africa, it has, to my mind, bridged the gap between the haves and the have-nots in terms of the information that they have. So anybody in any slums of India or other parts of the world can go on the internet and get the information that they would want to have if they are a little bit of internet literate. ChatGPT gave me the same enthusiasm when I first used it as the first time that I used internet. It also democratizes the flow of information, the access of information. And I believe, just to answer your question, that it presents a whole lot of plethora of opportunities, not only to the students, for all parts of the society. One of the biggest concerns that people have on this panel and otherwise raised that about plagiarism when we talk about education. So happy to report that the company OpenAI, which came up with ChatGPT, also announced another tool that they are working on, which would differentiate between the text generated by ChatGPT and a human. So all the teachers, all the professors who have had concerns about this would put paid to that. So let me come back to some of the opportunities that I think ChatGPT presents to the world. The first one is automation. It increases efficiency and frees up time for people to focus on more important tasks. If I had to write a letter of reference, for example, then if I input the details of the student, it gives me a fantastic letter of reference, which echoes the true things that I wanted to say. It improves customer service. It can provide 24/7 customer support, including the overall customer experience. You asked about how it is going to be used in the United States. So that, I think, is one of the ways why Microsoft has put $10 billion into OpenAI to be able to compete with Google as a search engine. Tying on with the flow of information and access to information for all sections of the society, I think ChatGPT personalizes the experiences to a great deal. Like, as I mentioned, writing recommendations, personalized learning, personalized healthcare. It increases access to information, again, making it easier for people to find the answers that they're looking for. And finally, I mentioned healthcare, the language that we are looking for. It, as all of us are aware, it stands for chat-based generative pre-trained transformers. So it's trained to give us personalized information that we are looking for. To sum it up, with further advancements and responsible integration, the impact of ChatGPT on the society, on the world, is going to be immense going forward.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much, Abhijit Sankar, which means we can only hope for so many other things. Just like Professor Mugisha said, that in education, we're even seeing it bring in a lot of opportunities. It's going to do amazing things. You seem to agree that also in the industry, ChatGPT is bringing a lot of positives. Now, back to you, Mr. Abraham George, the man in academia, way back from Scotland, UK. I am sure, I usually call you Mr. Consultant. You're always on the move. What are some of the key trends that you can be able to paint to the listeners? Some of the trends that you could be able to highlight about ChatGPT? Because some people are hearing it for the first time. Others have been able to maybe read on internet. Are there some trends that you can be able to paint since this technology came into offing?
Thanks, Maganda. Yeah, to connect the various points that all the other three speakers have given, I like to paint a story of looking back at how information was shared in times previous. The information that we all share with somebody is typically with one person to the other as individuals, and then within families, and then once we communicated as a community, we would share that information one-to-one. What technology has done and what ChatGPT is a reflection of is the growth of this whole story of the speed of how we can communicate and democratize, as Abhijit mentioned, information available to everyone, wherever they are. The issue of the information can be represented in different ways. People, I mean, all of us sitting here, when we talk about and use, talk through an issue or anything that we are exchanging, an idea, we are able to communicate, and our perspective on that is influenced by where we've come from. And therefore, what happens is that, going back to how I started this, is initially our communication was a one-to-one within the family. Then it's within the community. Then it is with the larger society. What computers and technology has done, and what ChatGPT does, is it alleviates and makes one to the many a faster process. But at the same time, when it is a one to the many, the issues that we've got to be concerned is somebody just repeating what one has heard to another audience without understanding what the original person has said? So in ChatGPT, what can happen is people can leverage it for reasons to push an idea in a particular slant or other. But there are lots of opportunities where ChatGPT is already being used using artificial intelligence, where our normal chores are becoming easy. Think about the calculator, right? The calculator made things easier for us. I know when I was in school, calculator was something that, my father, when he was working in engineering, he didn't even have the calculator. He used to use, maybe some of you are familiar with, a facet machine. It was one where you'd push, a couple of pieces together, and then you turn it, wind it, like a telephone thing, and it'll give you the answer. So that is the computer, right? Okay. And then you have the computer now in schools. Now it's more than that. You've got this thing, which is a supercomputer in your hands, right? The issue about ChatGPT and all technological developments is how do we keep the purity and understanding critical thinking? Are we losing issues as individuals to be able to analyze something and to be critically analyze something and communicate those ideas effectively?
Okay. I think we shall come there. Thank you very much, Abraham, for those comments. Briefly, before we come to, I'm going to read some comments from the members on the platform. But before I do that, I want to, okay, Dr. Kamlegea, I think next you'll be telling us whether there is any visible trail of research. I mean, this is your area. Do we have any visible research from Africa? Are we already doing much in this area of natural language processing? Because this is your area, because we'd love to know whether as Africa we are doing much in that area. But before you react to that, you'll allow me read some comments from our members. Natasha Najuna says hi. Junior Kagame, we are waiting. Mary Maganda, I'm excited to learn from this elite team of mighty men. Maybe next time we need to have mighty ladies also. William Ouma from Kenya says hi. Miriam Namaganda, I'm following from Riders Launch here in a village mall. Paul Zongo, official, I like the topic in which I really wish to be part of the meeting, but unfortunately I'm on my way to Entebbe Airport. On behalf of my team, the Kampala Youth Union members, we support this program. Magezi Michael from Miracle Faith Church says, thank you so much, Mr. Maganda Evans, for hosting this very important speech to the world. Boniface Luther, Pastor Winners Chapel, student Cavendish University says, thanks Tanya Innovation for helping us access such minds at the comfort of our homes. Looking forward to impactful session. Florence Mutiable, Senior Presidential Advisor in charge of Poverty Alleviation, Busoga, says, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I've joined a bit late. No, it's okay. Miriam Namaganda again says, thanks Tanya Innovation for the great work. I'm following this. It's a very good topic that all should follow. I'll help bridge lots of gaps and questions in regards of knowledge about online learning. Ikechuku Eze, I recognize you in a special way. Ikechuku Eze is the personal, I don't know, do we call him? He's the personal, maybe Professor Mugisha knows this better. Mr. Ikechuku Eze is the personal assistant to His Excellency, Jonathan Ebele Goodluck, who is actually the Chancellor of Cavendish University. Mr. Ikechuku, we recognize you very well. Thank you for sparing time. We know you are very busy, but by the time you're doing this all the way from Nigeria midst your session, that is important. You say, thanks, Evans, for the invite. This is quite engaging. Mr. Simwe Ivan, I'm following from Uganda. Magezi Michael, thanks my people for joining. I see you guys feel the conversation. Mr. Nti Hinduka Alpha, this is very interesting conversation. The speakers are exploring more about the importance of technology. William Wogali, this is really an amazing topic. Testify, I'm excited that ChatGPT is being taken from a positive perspective. We need to embrace it, and our teachers need to see how to embed it in their teaching and learning. I think that one has become a very great follower of Professor Mugisha. Okay, thank you very much, all those who are online. Keep your comments coming, and we really appreciate you. I'm told some are having technical issues of joining from other places. I don't know where the problem is. So now, coming back to you, Grace, is there any visible research in this line or related to the natural language transformers?
Thank you once again. Yes, this is a very intriguing question, I must admit.
Yeah.
But I trust the researcher in me. I also have my ear on the ground. Just a few picks around research related to natural language processing. In Uganda, we have over 52 languages spoken by the different people of Uganda. And normally, because of the myriad of languages that we have, there's a limitation that is imposed on the people in terms of how, for example, technology can penetrate to them and how they can even harness the use of technology. Because not everyone has gone to school, not everyone is an academician, not everyone is elite, but generally people are interested in technology. But language is always a barrier to accessing technology and services. So in regards to research, maybe I'll mention this. There's a company, a very close colleague of mine opened up. It's an AI company, artificial intelligence company. It does analytics and stuff like that. But they have developed a solution that is going to be used by a number of these. They're targeting global companies to like plug into the richness of the languages that we have here. So they are creating a platform that will enable companies like Google, companies like Amazon to actually do translation of their content into local languages so that these can reach a wider audience within the populace here. And this is just a pilot for the Ugandan languages. They're like 52, like I said, but their wider focus is on incorporating African languages in this platform. So that's quite huge. It's ambitious, but with the likes of ChatGPT coming along, I think it's going to make this this pipeline of translation a little easier for them. Okay. Because they now have corpus of language text in different languages. They're actually pulling all this data from archives, from written texts, from what. So they're creating a data set that is sitting behind this system. But then when you have ChatGPT coming in with this conversational service, deep conversational service, it would be very, very helpful to companies like that to actually harness and plug into the rich resource of languages they have. Oh, okay. The other research that has happened is in Makerere, actually. It's within the artificial intelligence lab that is hosted in Makerere. And they also try to do translation, but here they're moving more from textual translation. They're doing a bit of speech or sound to textual translation. And I imagine that that pipeline will be incomplete if we don't have a rich conversational model or conversational engine behind that. So these are very evident research going on within just near me, but I imagine that other universities are trying to do a lot around natural language processing. And well, it has a lot of limitations, but it's something that is like kind of like a holy grail to getting systems to work for the wider audience. Oh, maybe I will stop it a bit at that. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Sure. It seems you have a long list, but it's good that you are able to pinpoint, at least you are able to sample. Yeah, because if you had zero evidence of anything that we are doing, that would be worrying. But that is good enough. At least, you know, people will be able to know that this is something that, you know, we're already tapping into. Now, I think to the side of education where there have been very many concerns, this is going to Professor Mugisha. You have been able to say in your own words that we should have hope. Personally, on the platform of King's College Budo, where I happen to be on the committee for the parents, I have seen a lot of debates. People have been making arguments. Now, what is this thing happening? I mean, what is this ChatGPT thing happening? How are we going to run around? You IT people come and explain a lot. But I know that technology is one thing, but getting assurance of alternative modes of assessment that can still make us stay on track is another thing. And I know that this is your area. When we talk about assessments, when we talk about alternatives, ways of assessment, this will be important. And I have some of these parents, by the way, on this platform right now. So, Professor Mugisha, could you be able to give us now that hope? Besides the plagiarism we are talking about, the fears people are talking about, what alternative methods can we look forward, or can the listeners be able to know about that can give us a guarantee that online education is still visible?
Welcome, Prof.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Evans. And I want to thank Grace. He has articulated a number of issues. I needed to mention what he alluded to, that this is a real threat. I think the ChatGPT has been trained on a vast amount of text and can generate coherent and convincing responses to questions. And so we have to be extremely worried, especially in the area of assessment. But there's a lot that we can do. One, we need to retrain our staff, retrain faculty. And I'm happy Dr. Kamlegea is here, near here. I am happy George Abraham is always on the move, and so could also help us connect the dots when we are retraining our staff. We'll have to retrain the faculty, to retool everybody to know, to shift away from the traditional methods of assessment, giving essays, asking people to design a few things, policy briefs, blogs, and what have you. That's going to change. So there are a few things we can do for those teaching online. One, there is a way you can limit access to the model, be able to reduce the risk of cheating on a few PCs, but also when students are answering, for instance, on a learning platform, you can actually disable some of the things so that the students who are answering via that platform or using particular PCs may not be able to use them. That's one. Secondly, we can use secure assessment environments to reduce the risk of cheating, environments that, as I said, disable some of the functions so that students are not able to use those. But we could also develop unique and unpredictable questions, by the way. If you set a combination of, say, open-ended and multiple choice questions, you are actually able to juggle your way around. And also, if you keep regularly updating questions and changing goalposts. And to be able to do this, you should have trained your students actually using ChatGPT. So they freely know it, they critique some of the answers that they generate by using ChatGPT. Then the question becomes to critique the answers actually which they got, rather than asking them to write essays or produce those answers themselves. You can review the answers.
Okay.
As people, the answers generated can be reviewed by human evaluators to identify and penalize instances of cheating. And finally, Evans, I can't end without talking about ethical education. I think attitude and ethics take us very far. We need to always impart upon our students the fact that if you get good grades by cheating, you'll not be able to perform in the field when you go to a workplace. Actually, many organizations now are no longer asking for academic qualifications. They ask, what can you do? And they test your skills. So ethical education is extremely paramount. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Prof, for that submission. I think we can't doubt that as the people at the top, you're thinking hard about some of these challenges and what can be done. So we really want to appreciate that. Now back to you, George. We say that you are the man on the move. You are in the United Kingdom. I know when you go to cybersecurity conferences, you find George. When you go to Africa, you know, collaboration and what you find George. Now, it appears that we need a lot of collaboration in this area. I know that there is quite considerable, you know, like digital divide, Africa and other continents. What could you be thinking? What ways can we be able to collaborate to be able to bridge such a gap so that, you know, we don't have a very wide gap maybe between African institutions and those in the UK and the United States, or with the industries for that matter? George.
Okay, thanks, Maganda. I think to answer that question, I start first in us, wherever we are, Africa, UK, wherever location we are, what we've got to do is to contextualize the issues, the problems, and the gaps, right? And find partners who have got that missing skill that can fill that gap. So that in that way, what you're doing is you're finding a solution with a partner who understands the context of Africa. Or if it is another part of the world, you have to understand. You cannot take a solution that is effective in one part of the world and just transpose it like a ChatGPT, in effect, and just cut and paste it. It is not going to work. So what we need to engage with our youngsters and our youth and ask them, what is it that you are looking for? What is it that you're trying to achieve? And we as educators or people from industry need to be able to tell a story without using a lot of acronyms and connect what their aspirations are with the solutions of the people to deliver a wholesome story and an understanding that they then get motivated to take it forward.
Okay.
Right? Because when they see the results of them implementing some of those ideas with others, what they're learning through it is, when you're talking about ChatGPT, it is looking that as individuals, you cannot do anything, you cannot achieve. You have to do it with others.
Okay.
And therefore, in that, what, as Professor Mugisha highlighted, today, employers are not looking for a graduate degree. They're looking for what is it that, as an individual, you can contribute to the challenge we are facing in this situation.
Oh, okay.
So what you do is, in terms of collaboration, let me give you an example. If you're talking about a project on construction, right? You take students and you take your tutor to a site and simply provide that information, the theory part, and then simply say, now, here is it. You have to build a bridge. This is what you need to do. You need to get from A to B. Now, how are you going to go about executing that?
Okay.
So now what they have to do is to leverage that knowledge and translate it and be able to communicate with their friends and colleagues to work together. It is that which is required in our understanding and in our delivery of solutions going forward.
Thank you, George. Maybe that again now leads us to a question which I posed to Mr. Abji Sankar. What we want to know, because Abji, you are working for Amazon already, which we say is a very high-end organization, on the globe. You have been Chief of Communication, UNICEF. You also having a lot of initiatives in the space of education. What type of graduate? We have some students who are listening to this talk. What type of graduate do you think we should be anticipating with this type of innovations that are happening currently? Do you have, for example, concerns in Amazon on the type of graduates you are anticipating to have today and in the future? And what is this type of graduate? But before you answer that, just before you answer, you will allow me to read comments from members. Mr. Wandera Joshua says, great. Paul Kolere, he says, it's helped me with coding and I'm enjoying coding with ease. That is good, Paul. Dr. Malinga Ramadhan from Kampala International University says, great. Engineer Rogers Ahabwe, he says, Engineer Rogers Ahabwe, CEO, Supercom Technologies, very important topic to discuss. Mary Masinde from Kakamega, Kenya, says, Mary Masinde, I'm following from Kenya, very informative intro to ChatGPT for me. Thank you, Mary, for coming on. Junior Kagame, very educative session. Keep up the good work, sir. Daniel Katongole, lecturer, Cavendish University, Faculty of School of Business. He says, quite insightful conversation. Thank you very much, Daniel. Magezi Michael, thanks for the useful information about the technology The topic will help us to transform our knowledge, and thanks to Engineer Rogers for contributions about technology, okay? Samuel Mwesugwa from Baba TV. The information is rich to the developing country, and we need for the government to take it on as a policy to change the education system. We need to benchmark from those who made it. Masi Chemtai from Kenya. Timely conversation to be having, thank you. The emergency and rising unpopularity of ChatGPT makes me wonder how long before human creativity is rendered redundant. Testify, I'm now wondering if we need to give exams at university. Thank you, Prof, for bringing in the idea of ethics. I'm sure that any development in technology does not put that in mind. Raymond Kanyambo, spot on, Prof, a relevant, innovative topic to solve the current education learning and teaching challenges. Dr. Madlinga Ramadan still, in fact, some of us are now getting retooled with the professors' wonderful responses. Testify, a question to the panelists. Do you think we still need written exams at university? And if so, ChatGPT can do it for the students anyway. Engineer Rogers, I have a CEO Supercom. Today's world is in employment. It's what someone can do, and that is done by the university embracing skills to change communities, as IT needs paper, but mostly skill. Mr. Ikechuku Eze, our dear private secretary to His Excellency Jonathan Goodluck, he says, a question. If this is allowed, given that Africa is grossly underrepresented in AI, how much of Africa's cultural and peculiar sensibilities can this technology accommodate? Mr. Ikechuku, your English is very high end, but I hope maybe the panelists have been able to understand. But let's, okay, I think those are questions. Alex, CV, what type of graduate? I would say with the use, this new tech, we will be more informed graduates compared to the old school graduates. But back to you, Mr. Sanka. Can you make your brief comments? And then maybe if there are any answers to the questions that have been raised, you can still put them, because we have very limited time to summarize the show.
Yeah, so thank you, Maganda. These seem to be very interesting questions that are coming in. And about your question about the future graduate that the industry may be looking for, in my mind and based on my experiences, the future graduate, a successful one, will be the one who can work with these kind of innovations and not against. So the industry is always looking for people, not whether they have 5 PhDs. But I'll give you an example of the recent Gartner research that was done with that's a survey of over 2,000 CEOs globally at the end of 2022, where 66% of them said that they are looking for the candidates, the graduates, to have soft skills, whether they can communicate effectively, whether they have the adaptability to work with newer technologies. And by newer technologies, they mean things like ChatGPT, and whether they have the flexibility to work in different parts of the world. So soft skills then becomes one of, if everybody in the world is educated equally, which they are not, but even if we provide everybody that kind of education, soft skills then becomes the skill that all the CEOs are looking for. Coming to ChatGPT, I mean, this is not that is exceptionally new to the world of technology. We've had ChatSonic, which also has an extension to different browsers like Google Chrome. And ChatSonic, what also it does is it can act in it can take on 16 different roles, such as your dentist, your relationship counselor, your translator to different languages which the students might need. So we are looking for, and it seems even the CEOs are looking for, the kind of graduates who will be able to work with technologies, with systems, with people from different parts of the world. And on the part of the question that how can ChatGPT prepare graduates for the job market, it can help them develop their skills. It can provide them career guidance in real time. It can help them network. It can help them create their cover letters. It can help them create the resume to tell them what kind of resumes that different companies might be looking for. It can help them prepare for the interviews that the students would be needing in the job market. So the opportunities are immense. We need to focus on how best to use ChatGPT to our advantage, to our students' advantage. And from the graduate side, they better prepare for all kinds of different technologies, which would maybe someday soon there will be technologies which would surpass ChatGPT, which seems to be in the news right now. But we've had different alternatives for the past many, many years. So I'll stop there and happy to answer.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this summarizes what our talk has all been about. I hope that you have learned a lot. But just before we go off, we always have some closing remarks. I am sure that from the interaction, from the presentations, and also from the questions, in case somebody wants to answer a particular question, we shall give a chance, 1 minute, just to summarize, greet the audience, and in case you have any closing remarks. If there's any question, please, you can be able to answer. I want to start with you, Dr. Kamlegea. Just last comments, and then you can say bye to the listeners.
You're muted.
Oh, no, I can hear you.
Thanks, Evans. Thanks, Evans. Yes, I was muted. Thanks, Evans, for this activation of such a discourse. I think it's very apt, very, very in line with what is trending currently. Prof talked about something like ethical education. As an educator, I like that a lot. I think ChatGPT as a new technology that's going to revolutionize the way we teach and assess students. It's kind of like fire. You play with it, it burns you. You harness it, it can do a lot of good for you. And I would like to take the positive part of it. We harness ChatGPT to improve the way we conduct our education, and to also use it to be even more innovative in the way we use language in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. George, some few remarks, closing remarks?
Yeah, thank you. Probably to answer, I think so, one of the questions that came from one of the last ones you mentioned, how is ChatGPT impacting on the Africa market? Now, at the end of the day, tools will come and tools will go. At the end of the day, you have to be aware of what is happening around you. As I said, you have to always be contextual in what you're doing. And you've got to be always updating yourself. The key is the careers and what you do is going to change very, very fast. And therefore, it's important that you as an individual and as a group are always in that mode of continuous learning. You could be learning from all kinds of things. Think about kids of Generation Alpha, who are the ones who are under the age of 5. If you're having a problem managing to navigate this phone of yours and finding to do something, give it to them. They'll do it very fast. Why? They've been tuned into that, right? Somehow it looks like they've been conceived with knowing what to do, right? So you will get all of these changes. What the key part is, be always open to new ideas and how it can apply. But as Professor Mugisha said, you've got to be very ethical on how you use whatever tools. Everything that we have in our hands, we've got to use it responsibly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Mr. Sanka, you want to say bye? You have anything, or you had concluded? Any closing remarks?
I said what I needed to say.
Oh, you said what you wanted to say?
Yeah.
Ah, okay, great. Finally, to you, Professor Mugisha, can you kindly give us some closing remarks?
Yes, thank you very much, Evans, for the offer. To Ike, I think our Honorable Ike had a question all the way from Abuja, and I think Raymond Kanyambo, who lives in Dar es Salaam. I can only mention that this revolution has come, and Africa has one option: adapt. And one way of producing a critical mass of Africans that can work with this technology is to adapt it in universities, apply it in teaching and learning, mitigate the effects that relate to plagiarism and cheating of exams, and make sure that we produce graduates that I think Sanka has talked about, and also which Abraham talked about, who are applied, who are able to solve problems, rather than waiving academic documents, because that's not the world we are taking. That's not the phase we are entering. I thank you, and I think we can work with this technology to do better.
Thank you very much. But before I can thank you better, allow me to, okay, I'll read the comments, but then in case we shall be able to react to them, we shall get in touch with the panelists in case they have those reactions to make. Still, I have Flora Celes. It says ChatGPT does almost all things. How are we going to gain skill? I think that has been explained. Mary Maganda says, Mr. Eze, the point you raise is very critical. The honest truth is that if we as Africans don't wake up now and also create our footprint, no one can speak for us well. This discussion is a wake-up call. Thank you, that is noted. Dr. Malinga Ramadan, I concur with Abji's idea of having employees that can integrate a combination of skills and technologies to solve problems in an organization. Flora Celes again, that thing always confuses me as a student, papers or skills. The truth is that skills are most required, but why do employers continue to look for bachelors in something? I think they need to check. Dr. Maling again, there is a need for users to use the ChatGPT responsibly. Musa K, in my opinion, papers speak into the concept of conceptualization well. A skill is not negotiable. Ndihi Nduka Alpha, I was actually surprised when in one of the job requirements of software engineer, ChatGPT was among them. This is interesting. Testify, thank you, Mr. Malinga. The problem is how to measure responsibility while using a platform that can do for you everything. Alpha, that means in the future, the recruiters will focus on the skills of how you use these tools as is of current computer skills. Mercy Asante from London, very informative discussion. Bravo, Tanya Innovations. William Ouma from Mumias, Kenya, I agree with this discussion. Engineer Rogers Ahabwe, IT needs skills, not papers. Andy Odwor, interesting take on how hiring processes are shifting towards skill versus qualifications. Ladies and gentlemen, our listeners online, I want to thank you so much for sparing time, having over 250 people at one go. That is very amazing. I want to thank you for the time that you always spare. It also encourages my team that keeps on sharing these flyers throughout, for the last 2 weeks. I want to thank you. Please keep on, make sure that you keep sharing our platform for people to subscribe, for people to be able to show this content. All these personalities we bring across, they are doing a good job to ensure that we can enlighten our people. And it's good that we are making cross-continent pollination to ensure that we can know from some of the continents that are either ahead of us to understand what they are currently doing, as we also gear up to make sure that we can catch up. To the panelists, I want to thank you so much. I know, for example, how the schedules for the personalities you see here run. It is very tight. I can't thank you enough for sparing time and giving knowledge, and I'm sure that our listeners will benefit a lot. In case you want to follow this program, it shall always be online. In case you want to follow this particular program today, it's always on Tanya Innovations. You can always pick it at any time. If you want to share it with other persons, you can go there, click on it, share, and it's permanently on record. I want to thank you all, and I wish you a good night, a good afternoon to those in the United States, and still I think a good evening to those in the UK. God bless you all. Stay well and stay safe.